The stars had never seemed so cold to Ambassador Veltar as they did on this dark day. He stood in the great crystal hall of the Zephyrian Council, his 6 arms trembling as he watched the holographic images floating before him. World after world showed the same horrible sight. Empty cities, dead oceans, bare ground where forests once grew. The devourers had come. Around him, representatives from 12 different species sat in worried silence. The luminari glowed with fear, their crystal bodies dim and gray. The soft-furred Velkhani huddled together, their large eyes wet with tears. The floating Aryans drifted lower than usual, their gas-filled bodies heavy with despair. "Show them the Kepler system," Veltar said, his voice breaking. The images changed. What had once been a beautiful world with blue seas and green lands was now a brown ball of dirt. Nothing lived there anymore. Nothing moved. The devourers had eaten everything and moved on, leaving only death behind. 17 billion souls, whispered Council Leader Zephan. All gone in 3 months. The room fell silent again. Everyone knew the truth that no one wanted to say out loud. The devourers were coming for all of them, and they had no way to stop it. For 1,000 years, the galactic species had lived in peace. Wars were things of the ancient past. Weapons were museum pieces. Their ships carried scientists and traders, not soldiers. They had built a perfect civilization based on sharing knowledge and helping each other grow. But perfection had made them weak. The devourers didn't care about peace treaties or trade agreements. They were not a civilization at all. They were hunger given form. They ate everything living and made more of themselves from what they consumed. They had no leaders to talk to, no demands to meet, no way to reason with them. They simply ate and multiplied and moved on. "We have tried everything," said Ambassador Krina of the Velkhani, her soft voice barely heard. "Our scientists worked, day and night. Our best minds studied the creatures. Nothing stops them. Nothing even slows them down. Our ships run away as fast as they can," added Commander Thex of the Aryans. "But they always catch up. They always find us." Veltar looked at the faces around him. These were the most powerful beings in the galaxy, leaders of species that had explored every corner of known space. They had built cities that touched the clouds and machines that could move mountains. They had cured diseases and ended hunger on countless worlds. But they were all prey animals. Every single species in the galaxy had evolved from creatures that ran from danger instead of fighting it. They were smart and kind and peaceful because their ancestors had survived by hiding and working together. Violence was not in their nature. The devourers, it seemed, had evolved very differently. "There must be someone who can help us," Veltar said, though he didn't believe his own words. They had sent messages to every known species. The few who replied said the same thing: run and hide and hope the devourers go somewhere else. Young technician Nexri raised one of her slender arms. "Sir, we have been receiving some strange signals from a system in the outer spiral, very far from here. The signals are different." "Different how?" Veltar asked. "They come from the 3rd planet of a yellow star. The beings there call themselves humans. Their broadcasts are disturbing." The word hung in the air like a bad smell. In the peaceful galaxy, few things were called disturbing. "Show us," Council Leader Zephan commanded. The images changed again. Now they showed a blue and green world that looked beautiful and alive. But as they watched, the humans' own broadcasts told a very different story. The room gasped as they saw images of human history. Massive battles with millions of warriors, cities burning, weapons that could destroy entire regions, ships built only for war. The humans seemed to spend most of their time fighting each other. "They have been at war for their entire history," Nexri explained, her voice shaking. "Their planet is covered in the ruins of dead civilizations. They build weapons that can kill millions at once. They train their young to fight before they can barely walk." "Monsters," whispered someone in the back. But Veltar was thinking, monsters, yes, but monsters who knew how to fight. "What do their current broadcasts say?" he asked. "They seem to be at peace right now," Nexri replied. but only because they are all afraid of each other. They still make weapons. They still train soldiers. They explore space, but they send warships, not science vessels. Veltar looked around the room. He saw fear in every face. The idea of contacting a species like the humans terrified them all. These creatures sounded like something from their worst nightmares, but their worlds were dying. "We have a choice," Veltar said slowly. "We can die with honor, destroyed by the devourers while keeping our peaceful ways. Or we can call upon monsters to save us and hope they do not destroy us instead." "You cannot be serious," gasped Ambassador Krina. "Those creatures would be worse than the devourers. At least the devourers only want to eat us. These humans might torture us for fun." "The devourers will kill every living thing in the galaxy," Veltar replied. "The humans might kill us too, but at least there is a chance they won't. A small chance is better than no chance at all." Council leader Zephon was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "How would we even contact them? What would we say?" Veltar had been thinking about this since he first heard about the humans. "We tell them the truth. We tell them about the devourers. We ask for help. If they are truly warriors, they might see this as a challenge." "And if they decide we look tasty?" asked Commander Thex. "Then we fight," Veltar said, surprising himself with the words. "We die fighting instead of running. Maybe that is what we should have done from the beginning." The vote was close. 7 species agreed to send the message. 5 refused and left the council chambers. They would take their chances alone. Nexri worked through the night to compose the message. It had to be simple enough for the humans to understand, but complete enough to show how serious the threat was. She included images of destroyed worlds, data about devourer behavior, and star charts showing how fast they were spreading. At the end, she added a simple plea. "We are dying. You are warriors. We need your help. Please answer." The message was, "Broadcast on all frequencies toward the small yellow star where the monsters lived." Then they waited. 3 days later, the answer came. It was short and simple, spoken in a rough voice that made several council members flinch. "We hear your call. We're coming." Veltar stared at the communication device for a long time after the message ended. He had called across the galaxy for salvation. Something was answering. He just hoped he had not doomed them all. In the distance, the stars seemed a little brighter. Or maybe that was just his imagination. Maybe it was hope. Or maybe it was something much more dangerous heading their way. The human ships arrived 3 weeks after sending their message. Admiral Connor Hayes stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution and looked at the alien fleet waiting for them. The alien vessels were beautiful things, all smooth curves and glowing lights. They looked like art pieces floating in space. His own fleet looked very different. 13 ships built for war, covered in armor plating and weapon ports. The humans had come ready for a fight. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the alien flagship," reported Communications Officer Linda Price. "Put it on screen." "Admiral," Hayes ordered. The image that appeared made several of his crew members step backward. The alien looked like a tall, thin person with 6 arms and skin that seemed to be made of light blue crystal. Its face had 4 large eyes that were clearly meant for seeing in all directions at once. "Prey eyes. I am Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian Council," the alien said, its voice high and musical. "We welcome you to our space and thank you for coming. We did not expect you to arrive so quickly." Admiral Hayes studied the alien's face. Even though it looked very different from a human face, he could read the fear there. This creature was terrified of him. "We came as fast as we could," Admiral Hayes replied. "Your message said you needed help with some kind of threat. We brought everything we might need." The alien's 4 eyes went wide as it looked at the human fleet. "Everything you might need for what?" "For war," Admiral Hayes said simply. The alien made a sound that might have been a gasp or a sob. Admiral Hayes realized that these creatures really had no idea what they had called for help. "Perhaps we should meet in person to discuss the situation," Veltar said after a long pause. 2 hours later, Admiral Hayes found himself in the strangest meeting of his life. The alien ship was beautiful inside, all crystal walls and soft lights. The air smelled like flowers. Everything was designed to be peaceful and calming. The conference room held representatives from 12 different alien species. As Admiral Hayes walked in with his team, he watched the aliens' reactions. Some of them actually moved backward when they saw the humans. Others just stared with wide, frightened eyes. Dr. Peter Collins, the fleet science officer, whispered to Hayes, "Sir, look at their teeth, all of them. Flat teeth for eating plants, they're all herbivores." Admiral Hayes looked around the room and understood. Every single alien species was prey. They had evolved from creatures that ate plants and ran from danger. They had never been hunters. The humans, with their forward-facing eyes and sharp canine teeth, looked like nightmares to these peaceful beings. "Please sit," Veltar said, gesturing to chairs that had been specially made for human bodies. "We have much to discuss." For the next hour, the aliens explained about the devourers. They showed images of destroyed worlds and gave data about how fast the creatures spread. The humans listened quietly, asking technical questions about the enemy's capabilities. Commander Kate Sullivan was the first to speak when the presentation ended. "You're telling us that these devourers are basically space locusts with no intelligence?" "That is not how we would describe them, but yes," Veltar replied. "And they've been winning because they just swarm over your defenses?" "We do not have defenses," admitted Ambassador Krina of the Velkani. "We have never needed them." The humans looked at each other in amazement. General Marcus Stone leaned forward. "You've never fought a war? Any of you?" "War is a thing of the ancient past for us," Council Leader Zephon said proudly. "We evolved beyond such primitive behavior thousands of years ago." "Well, we didn't," General Stone replied, "and right now that might be a good thing." Dr. Elena Martinez opened her datapad and began showing the aliens information about Earth. "Our planet is what you might call a death world. Everything there is trying to kill everything else. We evolved from persistence hunters. We chased our prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Then we ate it." The room went very quiet. Several aliens were now visibly shaking. "Our bodies are built for violence," Dr. Martinez continued. "We heal from injuries that would kill most of you. We have backup organs. We can survive in environments that would poison other species. Our brains are wired to see patterns that help us hunt and fight. This is why we were afraid to contact you," whispered Ambassador Krina. "You should be afraid," Admiral Hayes said bluntly. "We are dangerous. We have weapons that can destroy continents. We have soldiers trained to fight in any environment. We've spent our entire history learning new and better ways to kill each other." "Then why haven't you destroyed yourselves?" asked Veltar. Captain Jake Morrison, who had been quiet until now, smiled grimly. "Because we learned something important. It's better to make your enemies fight each other than to fight them directly. We got good at making deals, forming alliances, finding common enemies to unite against." "Like the devourers," Commander Sullivan added. Admiral Hayes stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the stars looked peaceful, but he knew better now. "You called us monsters, and you were right. But we're monsters who chose to protect instead of destroy. The question is, do you want our help badly enough to work with us?" The aliens whispered among themselves in their various languages. Finally, Veltar spoke. "What would you require from us?" "Information, resources, bases to work from. And you need to understand that we do things differently than you do. We're going to ask you to build weapons. We're going to put soldiers on your worlds. We're going to turn some of your people into fighters." "You want to make us like you," said Ambassador Krina, horror in her voice. "No," Admiral Hayes replied. "We want to keep you alive. If that means you have to learn to fight, then that's what it means." General Stone pulled up tactical displays. "The devourers have been winning because they face no real resistance. They're used to prey that runs away. They've never faced predators that fight back with intelligence and planning." "You're going to hunt the hunters," Veltar said, understanding dawning in his eyes. "Exactly," Admiral Hayes confirmed. But we can't do it alone. We need your ships, your technology, your knowledge of their behavior. This has to be a partnership. The aliens talked for another hour. Some species were too frightened to agree. They left the meeting and took their ships away. But 7 species stayed. We accept your help, Veltar said finally. Though we do not know if we are making the right choice. Neither do we, admitted Admiral Hayes. But doing nothing is definitely the wrong choice. As the meeting ended, Dr. Collins heard one alien whisper to another, "Have we hired protectors or invited invasion?" The other alien replied, "Does it matter? If we do nothing, we all die. If we work with the humans, some of us might live." Admiral Hayes gathered his officers as they returned to their ship. "This is going to be complicated," he told them. "They need us, but they're terrified of us. We have to save them without making them feel conquered." "Can it be done, sir?" asked Commander Sullivan. "We're about to find out," Admiral Hayes replied. "Because ready or not, we're now the guardians of the galaxy. God help us all." Outside the ships, the stars watched silently as 2 very different types of life decided to work together. One group had evolved to create and build and explore in peace. The other had evolved to hunt and fight and survive at any cost. The devourers had no idea what was coming for them. Colonel Dan Wright had seen many terrible things in his 20 years as a soldier, but nothing had prepared him for his first look at the devourers. Through the stealth ship's sensors, he watched them consume what had once been a thriving world in the TRAPPIST system. The creatures moved like a living carpet across the planet's surface. They were not large individually, about the size of a human hand, but there were billions of them. They flowed over everything, breaking down matter at a molecular level and absorbing it into their bodies. Trees, rocks, water, even the air itself, disappeared into their hungry mass. "Jesus," whispered Sergeant Amy Foster, watching from beside him. "No wonder the aliens are terrified. The devourers were not intelligent in any way humans understood. They had no cities, no tools, no communication beyond basic chemical signals. They were hunger made physical, a biological weapon that existed only to consume and reproduce." "Look at the pattern," Colonel Wright said, studying their movement. "They're not random. There's a method to how they spread." Dr. Greg Taylor, the mission's xenobiologist, was recording everything. "They follow energy gradients. They eat the most nutritious things first, then move to less valuable targets. It's efficient, but predictable." "Predictable is good, Colonel," Wright replied. "Predictable means we can set traps." The stealth ship moved closer to the planet. What they saw next changed everything they thought they knew about the enemy. In the southern continent, a group of the planet's original inhabitants had barricaded themselves in a deep cave system. The devourers had found the caves 3 days ago, but they had not entered them. "Why aren't they going inside?" Sergeant Foster asked as Dr. Taylor ran scans on the cave mouth. "There are chemical traces of something the local species uses for protection. Some kind of natural repellent they secrete when afraid." The devourers can smell fear, Colonel Wright realized. And they're staying away from it. This was the first sign that the supposedly unstoppable creatures had weaknesses. Colonel Wright immediately sent a coded message back to the fleet. Within hours, Admiral Hayes had authorized the first human military action against the devourers. Captain Amy Foster, now promoted and given her own command, led a strike force of 5 ships toward the infected world. Her mission was simple: test human weapons against the enemy and learn how they reacted to real resistance. The battle began at dawn, local time. Captain Foster's ships descended through the atmosphere and began systematic bombardment of devourer concentrations. The results were immediate and surprising. The creatures died easily. Human weapons designed to kill other humans in their millions were devastatingly effective against the relatively fragile devourers. Plasma bolts vaporized entire swarms. Chemical weapons created dead zones they could not cross. Sonic weapons disrupted their coordination. But the most important discovery came when the devourers tried to fight back. They had no weapons beyond their ability to consume. When faced with airborne enemies they could not reach, they simply milled around in confusion. They were apex consumers, but they had never faced apex predators. They don't know how to deal with something that fights back, Captain Foster reported to Admiral Hayes. Every species they've encountered before just ran away. The second phase of testing began when Major Sharon Kelly led her Marine Division to the planet's surface. Her soldiers were equipped with full environmental suits and weapons designed for close combat. They were going to fight the devourers face to face. What happened next became legendary among human forces. The devourers, sensing fresh prey, swarmed toward the Marines. But as they approached, something unprecedented occurred. They slowed down. "Sir," reported Corporal Rick Barnes over the radio, "they're acting weird, like they're afraid of us." Dr. Taylor, monitoring from orbit, could barely believe his readings. "The devourers are showing stress responses. Their movement patterns are defensive, not offensive." Major Kelly understood first. "They're prey animals. They've never encountered predators before. We scare them." The revelation changed everything. The humans were not just able to fight the devourers. They were something the devourers had no evolutionary experience with. For the first time in their species' history, the galaxy's ultimate consumers were afraid. The Marines tested this theory by advancing slowly instead of opening fire. The devourers actually retreated. When the humans showed aggressive body language, the creatures moved away faster. When the Marines made loud, threatening noises, entire swarms fled. "This is impossible," Dr. Taylor muttered, reviewing the data. "They're supposed to be fearless. They've consumed entire civilizations." "Civilizations of prey animals, Colonel," Wright replied from the surface. "We're different. We're predators, and they know it." The third test came when Commander Larry Green led a full assault on the largest devourer hive on the planet. Instead of using overwhelming firepower, the humans employed hunting tactics refined over millions of years of evolution. They herded the creatures toward prepared killing grounds. They cut off escape routes. They used noise and movement to create panic in the swarms. Most importantly, they worked as a pack, coordinating their attacks in ways the individualistic aliens had never imagined. The devourers, faced with true predatory behavior for the first time, broke. Instead of fighting as a unified mass, they scattered. Their perfect efficiency collapsed into chaos. Many simply stopped moving altogether, overwhelmed by fear responses they had never needed to develop. "We're not just winning," Commander Green reported. "We're making them run away. They're actually fleeing from us." News of the human victory spread quickly through the fleet. Admiral Hayes called for a full briefing with the alien representatives. When the aliens saw the battle recordings, their reactions were mixed. Ambassador Veltar was amazed. "In 3 days you did what we could not do in 3 years. You made them retreat." But Ambassador Krina looked horrified. "The way you move, the way you hunt them, you are as frightening as they are." "More frightening," corrected Council Leader Sefun quietly. "The devourers kill to eat. You humans kill because you enjoy it." "That's not true," Admiral Hayes replied. "We kill because we're good at it. There's a difference." Dr. Martinez presented her analysis of the battle. The devourers evolved in an environment where nothing fought back effectively. They're perfectly adapted to overwhelm passive resistance, but they have no defenses against active predation. "What does this mean for the war?" Veltar asked. General Stone smiled grimly. "It means we're not fighting a war. We're going on a hunt. And humans are very, very good at hunting." The implications sank in slowly. The creatures that had terrified the galaxy for decades were not unstoppable killing machines. They were simply very effective against prey species. But humans were not prey. Captain Morrison pulled up star charts showing devourer positions. "We can track their movement patterns, predict where they'll go next, and be waiting for them. Instead of chasing them, we make them come to us. Like a spider web," mused Dr. Collins. "Exactly like a spider web," Admiral Hayes agreed. "We set traps across multiple systems and funnel them where we want them to go." The aliens listened to the humans, plan with growing amazement and terror. These creatures thought like predators in ways the peaceful species could barely comprehend. They saw patterns and possibilities that herbivore minds missed entirely. "You are going to hunt them to extinction," Veltar said. "If necessary," Admiral Hayes replied without hesitation. As the meeting ended, the aliens faced a new reality. They had called for help against monsters and been answered by bigger monsters. The question now was whether their protectors would be content to just hunt the devourers, or if they would eventually turn their predatory skills on their former allies. Indo. The depths of space, the hunt was about to begin. 6 months after the first human victory against the devourers, Ambassador Nicole Parker walked through the crystal streets of New Zephyr, the rebuilt capital of the Zephyrian homeworld. The city was beautiful again, its towers gleaming in the sunlight, but something felt wrong. The aliens who passed her on the street moved differently now. They walked faster, looked over their shoulders more often, and stayed in groups. When they saw her human security detail, they quickly stepped aside and lowered their eyes. "They're afraid of us," said Lieutenant Joe Adams, her bodyguard, "even though we saved them." Ambassador Parker had seen the same thing on every world she visited. The rescued civilizations were grateful, but they were also terrified. The peaceful species had learned that the universe was far more dangerous than they had ever imagined, and their protectors were the most dangerous thing in it. Dr. Kevin Ross had been studying this problem for months. His reports painted a troubling picture of how the war had changed galactic society. On Velcani Prime, the soft-furred people had started building underground shelters not from the devourers but in case the humans ever turned hostile. The Aryans had moved their cities higher into their planet's atmosphere, as far from human bases as possible. Even worse, the peaceful species were changing themselves. Dr. Tracy Wells discovered this during a routine medical check of luminary refugees. The crystal beings were attempting to modify their own genetics, trying to make themselves less fragile, more aggressive, better able to fight. "They're trying to evolve into predators," Dr. Wells reported to Admiral Hayes. "They're so frightened of being helpless again that they want to become like us." President Helen Clark received these reports in her office on Earth. The woman who had authorized humanity's first steps into galactic politics now wondered if she had made a terrible mistake. The galaxy was safer from the devourers, but it was no longer the peaceful place it had been before humans arrived. "We've broken something," she told her advisors. "These species lived in harmony for thousands of years. Now they're all afraid of each other because they've learned what real violence looks like." The problem was not just with the aliens. Colonel Barry Jones, who commanded the human peacekeeping base on TRAPPIST-7, sent regular reports about his own soldiers. Many of the troops were struggling with what they had done during the war. "The men are having nightmares," Colonel Jones wrote. "Not about the fighting, but about how easy it was. We wiped out entire swarms of devourers without losing a single soldier. Some of the guys are starting to wonder if we're the real monsters here." Captain Ron Clark, who ran intelligence operations across human space, discovered something even more disturbing. Several alien species had begun forming secret alliances, not against the devourers but against humanity. They were sharing information about human weaknesses and discussing ways to defend themselves from their protectors. "They think we're going to turn on them eventually," Captain Clark reported. "They're probably right to think that. We've shown them what we're capable of, and they know we could conquer the galaxy if we wanted to." The breaking point came during a diplomatic meeting. On the neutral world of Haven Station, Ambassador Parker was trying to negotiate a new trade agreement when Ambassador Krina of the Velcani asked the question that everyone had been thinking. "When will you leave?" The question hung in the air like a physical weight. Ambassador Parker looked around the room at the representatives of 7 species, all of whom were staring at her with hopeful, desperate eyes. "I don't understand," she said, though she understood perfectly. "The devourers are gone," Ambassador Krina continued. "You have driven them back to the edge of the galaxy. Your mission is complete. When will your fleets return to Earth?" Ambassador Parker realized that this was what the aliens had been hoping for all along. They wanted the humans to save them and then disappear, leaving them to return to their peaceful ways. But that was impossible now. There are still devourer remnants out there, she replied. Small groups that escaped the main assault. We need to hunt them down before they can rebuild their numbers. And after that? Pressed Council Leader Zephon. After that, we need to make sure nothing like this ever happens again. The galaxy needs protection from threats like the devourers. The aliens looked at each other with expressions of despair. Ambassador Veltar spoke for all of them. You are never leaving, are you? Ambassador Parker wanted to lie to give them hope, but she could not. No, we're not leaving. The galaxy is our responsibility now. The meeting ended in silence. As the aliens filed out, Ambassador Parker heard one whisper to another. We traded one invasion for another. Dr. Julie Barnes, who had become the leading expert on human-alien relations, tried to explain the situation to President Clark. The aliens see us as occupiers now, not protectors. Every human base looks like a fortress to them. Every human patrol looks like a threat. But we're protecting them, President Clark protested. From what? Dr. Barnes asked. The devourers are nearly extinct. The only thing these species need protection from now is us. And we're the ones providing the protection. It's a circle they can't escape. The situation grew worse when Commander Larry Green discovered that the Aryans had been secretly developing new weapons. When confronted, their leader admitted the truth. We are not building them to fight the devourers, Sky Speaker Thranks confessed. We are building them to fight you if the day comes when we must. This revelation led to the most difficult decision Admiral Hayes had ever made. He called a meeting of all human commanders to discuss their role in the galaxy. We have 3 choices, he told them. We can leave and hope the aliens can defend themselves against future threats. We can stay and accept that they will always fear us. Or we can rule them openly and stop pretending this is a partnership. General Stone was the first to speak. Leaving is not an option. These species can't defend themselves. And there are probably other threats out there we haven't discovered yet. Ruling them directly would make us tyrants, added Commander Sullivan. That's not what we came here to do. Captain Morrison had a different perspective. Maybe the problem is that we're trying to be something we're not. We're predators. We can't change that. But we can choose what we hunt. Dr. Collins had been thinking about this problem for weeks. What if we're looking at this wrong? The aliens are afraid of us because they think we might turn on them. What if we gave them a reason to believe we won't? How? Admiral Hayes asked. We find a new enemy. Something that threatens both humans and aliens equally. Something that forces us to work together instead of just protecting them. As if summoned by their conversation, Captain Clark received an urgent message from a deep space monitoring station. His face went pale as he read it. Sir, we're picking up signals from beyond the galactic rim. Something big is coming this way. Much bigger than the devourers. Admiral Hayes looked at the data and felt a chill run down his spine. The signals showed massive artificial structures moving through space at incredible speeds. Whatever was coming had technology far beyond anything humans or aliens had ever seen. What are they? He asked. Captain Clark checked his readings again. Unknown, sir, but they're heading straight for the core systems. They'll be here in less than a year. Admiral Hayes realized that their debate about leaving or staying had just become meaningless. The galaxy was about to face a new threat, one that would require both human strength and alien knowledge to defeat. Send messages to all alien governments, he ordered. Tell them we have a new enemy coming. Tell them we're going to need their help this time. For the first time in months, Admiral Hayes smiled. Maybe this new threat would show the aliens that humans were not their greatest danger after all. The synthetics arrived exactly when Captain Clark had predicted they would. Their massive ships, each one the size of a small moon, dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the galaxy and began moving toward the core systems with terrifying purpose. Admiral Susan Carter stood on the bridge of the UES Guardian, watching the enemy fleet approach through long-range sensors. The alien artificial intelligences had sent a single message before beginning their advance. Biological life is inefficient. You will be optimized or eliminated. Unlike the devourers, these enemies were clearly intelligent. Their ships moved, In perfect formation, their weapons were precisely aimed, and their tactics showed centuries of calculated warfare. They had come to turn every living thing in the galaxy into machines. "How many ships?" Admiral Carter asked her sensor officer. "Over 3,000, sir. And they're all bigger than anything we've ever built." For the first time since the Devourer War ended, humans faced an enemy that might actually be stronger than they were. Ambassador Nicole Parker was in the middle of emergency negotiations with the alien coalition when the synthetic fleet was detected. The meeting, which had been focused on reducing human presence in the galaxy, suddenly changed completely. "We need your help," Admiral Hayes told the assembled alien representatives via video link. "This enemy is too big for us to handle alone." Ambassador Veltar looked older than when the crisis had begun 2 years earlier. "Why should we help you? You have shown us that you can conquer any enemy." "Because they want to kill all biological life," Ambassador Parker replied. "That includes you." Dr. Mary Collins, who had been working with young aliens born after the Devourer War, made an important discovery during the emergency meetings. The new generation of aliens was different from their parents. They had grown up hearing stories of human heroes who saved the galaxy. To them, humans were not monsters to be feared, but protectors to be admired. "The children want to fight alongside you," Dr. Collins reported. "They see this as their galaxy too, and they want to defend it." Young Zephyrian Nexri, now an adult, and a respected scientist, spoke for her generation at the emergency council meeting. "Our parents remember a time of peace, and they want to return to it. But we have only known a time of war. We understand that peace must be defended." The first joint training exercises between humans and aliens began immediately. Captain Joe Adams, who had been Ambassador Parker's bodyguard, was assigned to train a unit of young Velcani volunteers. He was amazed by how quickly they learned. "They're still not natural fighters," he reported to his superiors, "but they're smart and they're brave. More importantly, they trust us." The older generation of aliens watched these developments with mixed feelings. Council leader Zephon expressed what many were thinking. "Our children are becoming like you. Is this the price of survival?" Dr. Julie Barnes, who had spent years studying the changes in galactic society, had a different perspective. "They're not becoming like us. They're becoming themselves, but with the knowledge that the universe is dangerous. That's not a bad thing." The first battle against the synthetics took place in the Kepler system, where the Devourers had first been defeated. This time, humans and aliens fought side by side. The synthetic ships were incredibly advanced, but they had one weakness that neither humans nor aliens had expected. They could not understand biological behavior that seemed irrational or emotional. Commander Larry Green discovered this during the battle when his ship's computer systems were taken over by synthetic hackers. Instead of following logical tactics, he ordered his crew to act on pure instinct and emotion. The synthetics, unable to predict random human behavior, lost control of the hacking attempt. "They're too logical," Commander Green reported. "They can't handle chaos." This discovery led to a new type of warfare that combined human unpredictability with alien innovation. The Luminari developed weapons that fired randomly, making them impossible for the synthetics to counter. The Aryans used their gas-filled bodies to create sensor disruptions that confused enemy targeting systems. Major Sharon Kelly led the first combined ground assault on a captured world. Her mixed unit of humans and aliens worked together in ways that surprised everyone, including themselves. "The aliens are teaching us things we never knew," she reported. "They see patterns we miss, hear sounds we can't detect, think of solutions we would never consider. We're stronger together." The turning point came when young Nexri made a breakthrough discovery about synthetic technology. Working with Dr. Greg Taylor, she found a way to introduce random biological elements into their computer systems, causing them to malfunction. "They made themselves too perfect," Nexri explained to the Joint Command Staff. "They eliminated all biological unpredictability from their systems. That's also their greatest weakness." The final battle took place above the Vegan homeworld, where the largest synthetic fleet had gathered to begin the systematic elimination of all biological life. Admiral Carter commanded the combined forces from the UES Guardian, while Admiral Hayes coordinated with alien fleet commanders. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships used aggressive tactics to break synthetic formations, while alien vessels provided support with their advanced sensors and energy weapons. On the ground, mixed units of soldiers and alien volunteers fought to protect civilian populations. But the most important part of the battle happened in space, where young aliens and humans worked together to implement Nexri's biological virus. Flying small, fast ships through the enemy fleet, they infected the synthetic network with chaotic biological data. The result was immediate and devastating. The perfect synthetic coordination collapsed into confusion. Their ships began firing on each other. Their formation broke apart. Within hours, the most advanced artificial intelligence in the galaxy was reduced to scattered, malfunctioning machines. "We did it," Captain Clark reported from his command post. "The synthetic fleet is retreating. They're actually running away." In days, the aftermath of the victory, something unexpected happened. The aliens who had fought alongside humans no longer seemed afraid of them. They had seen humans bleed, seen them make mistakes, seen them ask for help when they needed it. Ambassador Veltar met with Admiral Hayes after the battle. "You are still dangerous," he said, "but you are dangerous in service of life, not in opposition to it. We can live with that." Dr. Collins conducted extensive interviews with participants from both sides after the war ended. What she found was that the experience of fighting together had changed both species. "The humans learned that strength doesn't always mean domination," she wrote in her final report. "The aliens learned that sometimes you have to fight for the things you love. Both lessons were necessary. The peace that followed was different from the peace that had existed before the devourers arrived. It was not the peace of innocence, but the peace of strength. Both humans and aliens knew that the universe contained threats, but they also knew they could face those threats together." 5 years after the synthetic war ended, Ambassador Parker visited a new colony world where human and alien children played together in the streets. She watched a young human boy and a Zephyrian girl build something together with blocks, talking and laughing as if the differences between their species meant nothing. "What are you building?" she asked them. "A spaceship," the human boy replied. "To explore new world," added the Zephyrian girl. Together, they said at the same time, then laughed. Ambassador Parker smiled. The galaxy had called across space for salvation, and Earth's monsters had answered. But in saving the galaxy, both sides had learned something important. Monsters and saints could coexist when they shared a common purpose. The stars looked different now than they had before the crisis began. They no longer seemed cold and distant. They looked like destinations waiting to be explored by beings who had learned that diversity was strength, that cooperation was survival, and that sometimes the best way to protect something was to be willing to become a monster in its defense. The galaxy was safe, guarded by creatures who had chosen to be protectors instead of conquerors. And in that choice, both humans and aliens had found something neither could have achieved alone: a future worth fighting for.